And we are back once again with the NFL Picks Show. I feel like we haven't said it and we are back in a long, long time. But anyway, um, let's talk a little specifically week 14, the upcoming week, and week 13, and my feeling that the AFC North is slowly slipping further and further away from me. And after the news that I got today about Lamar Jackson's injury, it's slipping even further and further from my grasps, and the freaking blown leads against literally everyone is coming back to bite us here. But anyway, DJ here, Adam is over there. I don't know if Casey's coming, and the Chiefs lost, so Justin won't be here.
He hasn't been here when they've won, so who cares? And by the way, Justin, how you, the fan of Chiefs, how are you going to say blame Kelsey, and then you can't even spell his damn name right? He put Kelci. Bruh. Anyway.
In other fun news, let's start with the Browns against the Texans last week. How are you feeling? I didn't really get a chance to watch a lot of the game, but I had red zone on a little bit, and since there were no offensive touchdowns, it was kind of weird. But you know, by hook or by crook, he got it done.
Strangest game ever. I that's pretty much what I can take away from that. But in all seriousness, Deshaun looked like a guy that has not played in 700 days. I knew it was going to be an uphill climb. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but at the same time, I think it was naive to think that he was just going to go out and sling it for 350 yards and throw 3 TDs.
You think it's going to take him a little bit of time? Like, I know it's obviously it's going to take time, but are you expecting it to take him 3 or 4 weeks, like a preseason almost, to get it going? Or
Well, I think this whole buildup has been not treated. That's not the right term, but it almost has had that feeling of a preseason thing where it's like we all know what the accusations are, and he was suspended for 11 games. Just put that aside. But it was almost like, this is our long-term investment. Let's bubble wrap him and let's get him ready for the season, type thing. It's a couple of things. It was the perfect game for the defense and the special teams to have a game like that against a crappy team. But it was also good for the offense to have, like, for Deshaun, I shouldn't say the offense, because the offense was actually fine. It was just, again, Deshaun's mechanics were sus, because he was trying so hard not to throw it high. But everything kept going to the ground. But Chubb and Hunt looked good. I believe that I think that was the final nail in the coffin for Anthony Schwartz. I mean, thank you for the end around touchdown last week, but you cannot, if you catch a pass, you have to protect the football. You cannot leave yourself exposed for the guy to blop the ball out. It was disheartening to see Deshaun throw that pick in the end zone, because that might just get me one drive where, they march down the field. He throws one in the end zone. It's like, all right, this is what it's going to look like. And on that interception, all he had to do was just sit back or maybe flush out of the pocket just for another half second, and he had DPJ wide open in the left corner of the end zone, which, by the way, shout out to DPJ for that punt return. Woo, amazing. So it probably is to get to quote to even in the ballpark of old Deshaun, it probably is going to take 3 or 4 weeks, but I do think it will be significantly better this week. Because we need him to be, like, it has to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It has to get better this week. But I think getting that out of his system, getting used to live rounds being thrown at him, I think that was was a good thing, but it's going to be the circus that I thought it was going to be in Houston. It's going to be that in Cincy this Sunday. I can tell you that much. So, and
I definitely love a Cleveland win this week.
oh,
espe-
you telling me? You telling me?
especially with the uncertainty going on with the Ravens right now, and the injury situation. I mean, all around, but losing Lamar is always a big thing. Once again, in the pocket, it's just it's crazy, and it was funny because I was in a couple of Twitter spaces today during work, just listening in on what people were saying, and I've heard a couple of different things, but like what I came back realizing and understanding was, the Ravens are still are defensively they're good top to bottom. If they could just finish out games, that'd be great. But talent wise, they're good top to bottom. But offensively, they're good everywhere, but probably about wide receiver. And it's not even that they're not good at wide receiver. It's just there's just a lot of unproven guys at wide receiver. There's a lot of guys who haven't had 1,000-yard seasons. There's a lot of guys who haven't had a lot of productivity in the league at wide receiver, and it just feels like they're one receiver away. And how do you get this offense going without that one receiver will be interesting. But looking at them against the Broncos, a good defense. It was considering Lamar went out. I think the offense went kind of as advertised. Huntley made some throws. Actually made a lot of throws, not for a lot of yards, but he made some throws, and he managed the game well. And I think that's what I'm going to look for against the Steelers. The Steelers this week is more management of the game, especially the next couple of weeks, at least 2, probably 3 weeks. If Huntley can manage the game to not make the losing mistake, but make the winning play, I think that changes a lot, especially with some of the tougher games coming up. Regardless of what the Steelers look like, they're still going to be competitive against the Ravens, and we know this. The Browns getting back Deshaun, considering where he'll be by in a week or so. And then of course the Bengals are feeling like they're at an all-time high right now, even though I still think they're frauds. But I think that
you think every team are frauds.
No, I literally think the Bengals are frauds. But anyway, but I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the AFC North in general, because having Deshaun back, I think puts the Browns right back in the race again. If they can make a little bit of a run, especially considering they seem far out in the way right now, but at the same time, and on the wrong side of far out in the way. But,
let me just put this in perspective. It is quite the long shot, even if they run the table and win 7 in a row. The problem is we have way too many tiebreakers going against us.
Yeah.
You lost to the Jets, you lost to the lost to the Chargers, you got smoked by New England. Now, obviously, we'll see where those teams are, are at the end of the season. Nonetheless, now I would still prefer them to just go for it. I mean, what do you have to lose? Because even if they lose Sunday, they could still rack off a couple of wins and be. I would be really happy with 9-8. I would be really happy with 9, and I wouldn't even necessarily be bummed out with 8-9. It was. I mean, that was the record last year. But this is about getting, aside from trying to give yourself a chance in the dance, but at the same time, this is about, setting up for next year.
Yeah.
I still question people that say that Stefanski's on the hot seat and all that shit. That's ludicrous. You cannot fault the guy for not having Deshaun fucking Watson for 11 games. And albeit that he's actually doing his job because again, they can score points. They score points. This past Sunday, no, but again, like I think there was too much. There was no middle ground in terms of the commentary. It was just the people were like, well, we kind of had to expect this, and people were just like, oh my god, this was the shits, all that stuff. Like again, what were you expecting? Yes, I think people were expecting to be better. Of course. I mean, again, it's Deshaun Watson, but I think it was the realization of like this is going to be an uphill climb. So
Right.
it's just gonna take a little bit. And if they go on a decent run, win 9, 10 games, they're still more than likely gonna be third in the division anyway. So you get the third place schedule.
Right.
Because draft picks, making sure that you have that high draft pick doesn't matter. We don't have a first round for the next couple of years.
Yeah. So, we'll see how it we'll see how it goes. But nonetheless, I'm just thinking anything else I saw from week 13 that was kind of
Bye, Zach Wilson. I'll just say that locker room does not like him. They are all in with Mike White.
I definitely thought the Bears were going to beat the Packers this week. It looked like for what 3/4 of that game they were going to.
Same here. I'm like, if Fields plays, like they got a shot, but just some of them picks down the stretch, and it's not even petty theft. It's just the easiest damn pick of the week. Anytime the Rodgers plays the Bears, it's a W. I don't get it. Like they're so close. They're so close. If they could just give Justin a little bit more, give him an O line, and they need a couple of dudes on defense as well. Because Quinn and Smith are gone.
Yeah, that's true. Trying to think anything else. The 2020 tie between Washington and the Giants is the most Washington Giants thing I've ever seen in my life.
But can we get rid of the tie? I'm so sick of this.
Yeah.
There's too much on the line, especially for those two teams.
Yeah, well, and even if you got to do it like they play the extra period and they don't get it, and then they just battle for touchdowns or something.
Yeah, you either just continue it. You either just continue it. You do a field goal thing, or you just do the college rule, and just turn off the stats.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of I feel like the Niners Dolphins game surprised me.
I thought it was going to be closer, but I mean that defense.
That's the thing. And that's what I've been saying. Like when I talk about like nobody is necessarily unbeatable. Like the Dolphins are obviously contenders, but I feel like if you make Tua do what Tua can't really do, which is throw deep, like he gets bailed out by Tyreek Hill a lot throwing deep. So if you make him throw deep, let's see if he can beat us deep. If you force Josh Allen into that mistake, let's see what happens. Like that's what I was saying. Like there's not a lot. Like we saw the Bengals forced the Chiefs into mistakes, and if you make the right play, then that's what's going to happen. And that's what I'm saying. Like when I talk about the playoffs are wide freaking open, even for a team that feels like they can't score 10 points right now, I still feel like, if you can put it together at the right time.
Sir, the Broncos aren't making the playoffs. You're gutless. You're fucking gutless.
Speaking of teams that suck and probably shouldn't, the Raiders, and that's the funny part about it, because the AFC was supposed to be so freaking competitive this year, and it is in all the weird places though, right? Like the Jets are better than the Raiders and the Chargers right now. Like who would have thunk? Right?
That is not hyperbole. That is not hyperbole.
Like that's the thing. Who would have thunk the AFC East would be better than the AFC West right now, when the AFC West was the most hyped up division we've seen in 15 years?
and I'm gonna make this call right now. Sean Payton's gonna go to the Chargers. I mean, it just Staley and whoever his offensive coordinator is, they are bums. They're idiots. You have Herbert, and you're making him look subpar. For God's sakes.
And then the Cowboys just ran away with the game against the Colts.
And yeah, I was going to say, which is why I wish Casey was here. I'm like, they actually made it a game for 3 quarters.
Yeah,
it was just, then at the end, then it was, just interception, fumble.
I mean, and that's the thing. Speaking of teams that are a quarterback away, as like because it was funny because a lot of people were talking today in the space that I was in. They were talking about team, regardless, Lamar's going to get paid, right? Regardless of who it's by, whether it's the Ravens or somebody else. And they were talking about the potential of trading him, which should never happen in any. You should not trade your best offensive player in your team's history. But anyway, they were talking about trading.
A good discussion for another day.
You don't think that Lamar is the best offensive player that the Ravens have had in their history?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, again, I don't know if he's going to get paid.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's tough because like Lamar Jackson is the offense. Like we've seen this time and time
he is the offense, and no fault of his own when he doesn't get help. But at the same time, now this is 2 years in a row now. Last year was worse, but this is the 2 years in a row now where the apex of the season where he got hurt.
Yeah, and it's tough too because it's not like he's getting hurt. I mean, I don't think the running helps, right, his durability, but he's not getting hurt on running plays. And I think that sometimes it's forgotten about because, of course, you see him run probably more than you see him pass due to the scheme. But it's they were talking about a trade, and they were talking about like potential teams that may line up to just throw first round picks at EDC, who would probably take every first round pick you could give him because he just loves draft picks for Lamar. And it was just it was a very interesting conversation because EDC loves picks, and sometimes he loves picks more than he loves the players that are standing out on his team. And plus the Ravens just, I mean, this, I know this, Casey knows this, Justin knows this. People who are probably like, who are the Baltimore Ravens? They know this. The Ravens don't pay players. Not certain players, they just don't pay. It took Joe going to an AFC Championship game and then winning a Super Bowl for them to pay him. Not necessarily to pay him the money that he ended up getting, but I'm just saying in general, they don't pay those guys. They lowball you, and then after they're done lowballing you, they're like, oh, why didn't you accept my offer? It's the same thing they do in trades. They lowball, like, for example, they lowballed for Jalen Ramsey and it ended up with Marcus Peters. So it's just, and it turned out to be a good thing, but even still, like, it's one of those things. The Ravens don't pay their players, they especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like, we know this. The Ravens have never re-signed a wide receiver that they drafted, and they have re-signed one quarterback in their entire history to a long-term deal, and it took him winning a Super Bowl to do so. So, like, all this playoff success BS that people want to spew, that's why Lamar shouldn't get paid, didn't matter for Joe. Didn't matter for Joe at all. I'm not saying Joe is the most consistent piece, but for me, after watching Kyle Bowler and Trent Dilfer and all these guys,
Dilfer, I was going to say we both had to suffer through the Dilfer. Well, I mean, Dilfer got you a Super Bowl.
Right, he did, but after suffering through what those offenses looked like at times, like, yeah, I was happy about a guy who showed up to work every single day, did what he could in a run first scheme, and did his thing. It was kind of like what we talked about a couple weeks ago with Baker. And like just the Browns in general, like the Browns lean on the run. That's just what they did. It's hard to lead the league in rushing and lead the league in passing. It's a very difficult thing to do unless you're scoring at will on every play that you play. Like it's just crazy. But anyway, week 14. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. Can we skip Thursday Night Football? The Raiders going up against Baker's new team, the Rams.
God, I really wanted Baker to go to San Fran. I
Yeah,
really
me too.
did. And I know, like, there was, I think it was Charles Robinson of Yahoo was saying, like, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. Like, yes, I understand that,
But ain't he practically the same darn quarterback as Jimmy G? If we want to,
but that was my argument. I said, wait a second. Shanahan pretty much it's a more exotic version of it. I said, like, it's the same offense as Stefanski's.
yeah,
Because, I mean, granted, now Stefanski does not have the pieces that San Fran has with Debo and when they had him, Jeff Wilson and guys like that. So you could do those exotic looks, which, by the way, I mean, just not to go off into the weeds here, but like on Sunday, they had Demetric Felton out there, who's a fine player. He's a fine player. But when you do those motions in the backfield and you don't throw him the ball, guys aren't going to pay attention to him. You have to look for McCaffrey. You have to look for Debo, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the threats. And I'm like, I think he would have thrived in that. But that's just me. I mean, it still makes sense. The Rams needed they needed somebody to give some stability. And like I'm not saying that they're not going to go on a run. I mean, they're not making the playoffs, but I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, like that this boy deserves a chance, for God's sakes.
yeah, yeah. And it was funny because it was one of those things that I was kind of I haven't been able to bring up because I've been listening to Spaces at work, so I can't really talk on the Spaces. But the media and the fans carry a lot of weight about what they think about certain players. Like, let's be honest, like the narrative about Baker changed so quickly because the media wanted it to. More so than I mean, sometimes I feel like it's more so than what actually happens in the locker room. And that's weird to say when you think about it, but the media has a lot of say in what we think about, especially as fans per se, because we're not in the locker room. But like the media has a lot of say in how we feel about certain quarterbacks. If at one point in time somebody came out and defended Baker from the media, we may have given him a little bit more respect because I mean he did do a lot for the Browns organization. Now the help that he received on the way there and all that was still good. But that was my biggest thing. Like, we got to be careful about the media and what we kind of listen into, because sometimes it can skew our perspective. Lamar Jackson's been a running back since somebody said he should play a different position. So that's another one of those where it's just like the media controls that narrative, and it you choose to believe it or you choose not.
Well, and it drives me nuts when they be like, they shouldn't listen to us. I mean, we're just. I said, no. What you guys say matters. You guys are a bunch of Meltzers, and people think that they're in the know because they listen to you or watch you.
Yeah.
That's why, again, like you gotta. I'm not saying you have to be selective to go with confirmation bias, but I'm just saying you have to listen to the guys that, like, do they have an agenda? Are they full of shit? How well do they know their stuff? Like, for me, there's only about 3 or 4 guys in the Cleveland media that I'll actually listen to because there's most of them just did not like him from the word go.
Yeah. And I don't know how true this is, but I've heard a lot of people saying that the media members close to the organization pushes the narrative that the organization wants to be pushed upon certain people. So if there's a smear campaign on Baker's name to make him look kind of bad, I wouldn't necessarily be, I wouldn't have been surprised by that because he's always been, a polarizing guy. But nonetheless, are you going with the Raiders or the Rams? I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I think
I'm gonna give it to old Bakes. I'm gonna give it to the Rammy Hammies, even though this is basically going to be a home game for the Raiders. Like, I think that it's gonna be tough. But I think that this weird Cinderella story that people are trying to make it out for the Raiders are still garbage. And I say the Rams pulled an upset. The former Super Bowl champs flexed the muscles on their home turf, quote unquote.
You talking about a real bad Super Bowl hangover, man. Them Rams, I tell you.
They have yet to call the Uber. But here's, but again, that being said, we can make fun of them all they want. They can look into their case and see that Super Bowl trophy. We're all with all what anybody can say is like they went all in and it panned out.
Yep, sure did. All right, moving on to the Jets at the Bills.
Next,
They're playing at the Bills.
yeah,
I'm gonna go with the Bills at home.
Yeah, I think the Bills will smoke them. They'll be pissed off from what happened last time.
Especially given that they're at home too. I just because it's a divisional game, I could see it being close, but we'll see how it goes. Browns at the Bengals. For me, I'm going with the Browns because I need the Browns to win this game, as they kind of attempt to make their run, but also at the same time to keep lighting the AFC North, not knowing what's going to happen with the Ravens coming up against the Steelers, which I think they play at. Oh no, they still play at 1. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that'll be on the other side.
Yeah, but well, should be fun. But Adam, what you thinking?
Yeah, they got this has got to be it's got to be a Chubb, it's got to be Njoku, and it's got to be again somebody other than Cooper stepping up, whether that be and I say that with DPJ is having a career year, tampered. I understand, it's like he's not Tyreek or anything like that, but I'm just saying like per what he's done the last few years, I mean he is thriving in this offense, and I hope that continues. God, I would really like for them to. I don't know if there's a way they could make some type of claim for another receiver because we are hurting bad. David Bell went down with a hand. Schwartz is in concussion protocol. Maybe you can trot out Michael Woods, which he's got some speed. But the defense has to continue their rise of what they've done in the last 3 or 4 weeks. You've got to maintain that, and it can't have this just be fool's gold. I mean, it's naive for me to think that it's going to be the same thing as it was on Halloween, but I mean, for whatever reason, they have had their number, and I hope that continues. But I do think this will be a shootout, and Deshaun has to have a better game. Yeah. And O-line, just do your damnedest to control the line like you've had every other time, even with the less than I say less than because they don't have their starting center that they've had the last couple of months. I mean, Posick or Yelda Froholt's been fine. Maybe he's getting better, but I mean it's just better. Posick was way better than he has when he was in. And Jed, please, for the love of God, hold your blocks. You've got to be better. I like Jed Wills a lot, but he has been having a rough go round. So anyway, but yeah, keep this streak going. Let's make it 3 in a row.
Alrighty. Moving on to the Texans at the Cowboys. I mean,
next.
Even a discussion
next.
I mean, if the Cowboys beat the Colts like that, I can imagine what they'll do to the Texans. The Vikings at the Lions. And this is one of those weird games where, like, this is a game where the Lions will show up and actually beat the Vikings. And I'm gonna stick with it. We the Lions play hard, and Dan Campbell's probably playing for his job, unfortunately, at this point. Even though I like him a lot, but
I think he's saved his job.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's saved his job.
But I mean, putting a couple extra good bullet point wins on there would be nice to see. So I think they beat the Vikings this week. What's your thoughts?
I'm going with the upset as well. I'm going with the Lions. The Vikings again. They're a tough team to read. They're great offensively, but they don't close teams out. And the Lions are frisky. If you let them hang around, whatever, though, I do think Goff can feast a little bit. And my God, you got Jameson Williams now. Just let's use that. And by the way, kind sir, I believe you owe the Lions an apology. Did you see the Lions? I'm like, yeah. Do you see who they're playing? I know they just beat the Ravens, but come on now.
Yeah, they brought the Jaguars down there pretty quick.
Jaguars. The Jaguars.
The Eagles, the Giants. I think the Eagles beat the fraudulent Giants.
Yeah,
For,
that's why I just for anybody out there, like this was why I was being low key with the Giants. I'm like, they're miles better than what they've been the last few years. But I'm like, there's something about them that is just I don't like, and I can't quite put my finger on it. In the last few weeks, that has proved me right.
yeah. So I mean, I could see an upset potentially happening, but that would just be like wishful thinking that the Giants would somehow pull this out. Just kind of shock the division a little bit. But they just I don't know. I feel like in their losses they just not look that great. But that's just me.
Exactly.
Ravens Steelers week. Always fun. With Kendrickle, Pictrickle, with Kenny Pickett out there. It's gonna be interesting to see how he plays. I know he's been improving, and of course that defense is always going to be good. But I think the skill of the defense that the Ravens have, I they should be able to force some turnovers in this game. I think the biggest thing is going to be the offense. What can the offense do? And I feel like I've said that a lot this season, but especially with Tyler Huntley in the game, you get a little bit of that kind of Huntley magic per se, but it's not necessarily the same as what Lamar does. But he can make some plays here and there, and hopefully he can make kind of some of those big plays that he needs, like that throw he made to Kenyon Drake last week was really good, just like kind of freezing the defender a little bit and fitting the ball where he needed to. It'll be interesting to see the adjustments that Greg Roman makes too, because this might be a chance for Tyler Huntley to thrive a little bit. Greg Roman tends to thrive with guys that people haven't seen a lot of, and Tyler Huntley's a guy you haven't seen too much of. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think the Ravens win this game. It should probably be close, more than likely. I would love to see Ravens defensive touchdown because it's been a while since we've had one. So it'll be interesting to see the personnel too in this particular game to kind of see what happens. But Adam, what you got?
I want both you guys just to forfeit because I don't want to see either team win, and I don't want to see a tie. And conventional wisdom says that I should root for the Steelers because that will that'll put you guys at 8-5. But it drives me nuts. Can you Pittsburgh? Every team just accepts when they're bad, and you're not horrid, but you're not great. Like what is 8-9 gonna do? And but that's the product of having culture. They're never gonna just throw in the towel, the bastards. but just because I don't want them to have any hope. The rat birds.
All right. Moving on to the Jaguars at the Titans. This is one of those weird games where I feel like the Jaguars will come out, play really hard, and win this game. But I'm gonna go with the Titans, especially. The Titans coming off a pretty good letdown last
Oof.
week. This should be a bounce
Oof.
back for them, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they fired their GM, which they got a pretty good receiver out of that AJ Brown trade. I feel like, but anyway,
But they did, but it was I would say that was very stupid.
but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Titans, but I could see him putting. I could put them on upset alert because I could see something going down.
Yeah,
Like that.
same.
The game that probably would have been at the in the preseason, everybody would have been looking forward to, but now everybody's like, the Chiefs at the Broncos.
Next.
Exactly. Panthers at the Seahawks. It's weird because I don't think the Seahawks are even that good, but they're good enough to win this game.
Yeah, like I said, like again, like Gino could sling it. I'm like, this is fool's gold. This is fool's gold. I out of spite, I want to pick the Panthers so bad, but they just ugh. Yeah, the Seahawks.
The Bucks, who somehow found a way to win that game against the Saints, going up against the 49ers.
Saints, gutless, gutless. How
Uh,
do you let that happen?
I think regardless of who the quarterback, like I think I could play quarterback for the Niners this week, and they would beat the Buccaneers. Just because I don't know what's going on with the Buccaneers. I don't know why they're so bad, but they are terrible. Even in a win last week, they're still terrible. So, and if they didn't have Tom Brady and didn't have the benefit of not hindsight, but the fact that they won a Super Bowl previously, revisionist history, I guess I should say, no one would be talking about the Buccaneers, but the Niners are going to win this game. What's your thoughts?
Niners. I like the running game will help them immensely between whether it be Debo or McCaffrey, but like I said, like the Buccaneers defense is still good, but again, it's not the dominant force that it once was.
Yeah. Sunday Night Football, Vikings. Dolphins at Chargers. I think the Dolphins win this game. This is one of those games where the Chargers would win because, I mean, it's not the Chargers are even that bad. They're just 500 right now. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins. What's your thoughts, Adam?
I'll go different just because I mean, like I said, like I think the Dolphins the Dolphins Niners game took a lot out of them last week, whatever and I mean I know of what I said the last couple of weeks. The Chargers are the most incompetent 6-6 team I think I've ever seen. But I do think that this is another fork in the road for the Dolphins, and I think the Chargers will squeak one out.
All right. And Monday Night Football, the Patriots at the
Oh,
Cardinals.
this is
They should have just closed this one
terrible.
out.
Freaking terrible.
Is Kyler playing again?
I don't even care because like I'm picking for a tie for really this game is hot garbage.
Yeah. Just so y'all remember, Kyler got paid before Lamar. I'm just saying. Let's start this
Well,
way.
did Lamar play Call of Duty? Did
It's
he have to have in his contract that he will devote X amount of time for
well,
film study?
he's got plenty of time for Call of Duty right now because he's hurt. But I guess the Cardinals. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, tie. I
The
don't care.
refs.
I hate the refs. I hate these teams so much.
Oh man. Well,
And
I'm
my
going to
hatred
the
for the
fourth
Cardinals
game.
is irrational, but I can't stand I cannot stand Lamar. I cannot stand Kingsbury.
You mean Kyler? Lamar is fine.
Kyler. I can't stand Lamar either, damn it. Try to say you had a cramped foot. Just say you took a shit. Just say you took a shit.
Oh man, but
3rd and 12, Chase freaking McSorley. God damn.
As always, definitely hope you guys enjoyed. You can always listen to the Instant Class Wrestling Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. We talk wrestling sometimes, every once in a while. But definitely hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys on the next one. Go find the other two fools and be like, wait, what was y'all at? But until next time.
I didn't know we were doing one this